The evidence speaks for itself, because when you murder innocent civilians, it doesn't care whether Aiden Doyle goes to UCLA or not. It cares whether innocent civilians are murdered or not. It doesn't care whether Mosab was born in Palestine. It cares whether innocent civilians were murdered or not. That's the reality. It doesn't matter where I come from or where Mosab comes from.
Have you ever been to Israel?
No.
The source of your information? What's the source of your information?
Is Benny Morris okay? Is that a good source?
Give me
all of the credibility that you gained by living in Palestine was taken away from you when Israel put you on their paycheck.
Okay, all right. We're gonna.
Okay.
Do
you have evidence that I have a paycheck from Israel?
You worked for Israel for 6 years. It's not.
Do
it's,
you
it's
have
in your
evidence
biography.
for money?
When you say you're fighting for Israel, would you say that you're advocating for them? Civilian targeted warfare, which has been Israel's strategy since 2006, which constitutes a genocide, but it's not only the killing of innocent civilians directly with their 2,000-pound bombs in Gaza and the targeting of civilian centers, whether Hamas is there or not. The genocide really precedes this, or at least the evidence of genocide precedes this, Palestinian homes. When this happened, the Palestinians were evicted and Jewish tenants moved in. So, I mean, sure, some left willingly, but you have to ask, was it willing, or were they being terrorized and then they decided to leave? Now, then also the claim that the Arab leaders told Palestinians to leave because they'd be able to return later. Well, that's true, but it accounts for a couple thousand.
Well, no, what I'm asking you, where were you getting that fact from?
It's just general knowledge.
What?
I'll say,
Okay, so I found this debate from a few months ago between Mosab, or aka Mossad, the hidden agent from Israel, debating a UCLA activist and getting absolutely destroyed. So I thought I'd share their highlights with you. If you appreciate me finding all of the highlights of these debates so you don't have to go watch the whole entire video, make sure you like this video and subscribe to my channel. Also, I have a huge announcement. So I recently hit 50,000 subscribers, and I asked you, my loyal subscribers, what I should do to give back to the community. Many of you had spoken up and said that I should give to a pro-Palestine activist in my community, and that's exactly what I did. I'm excited to share that on Monday, I will be sharing my first giveaway video where I give $500 to a pro-Palestine activist. I really want all of you to support this video. Make sure you watch it if you see it in your feed. Just watch it, support it, and now let's continue.
No. What is happening to Israel and Palestine doesn't care whether I've been there or not. It's the reality, whether you like it or not. You can say what you want. You can say what you want. The evidence speaks for itself.
Okay, first thing I'm noticing here is a very pro-Zionist audience.
The evidence speaks for itself, because when you murder innocent civilians, it doesn't care whether Aiden Doyle goes to UCLA or not. It cares whether innocent civilians are murdered or not. It doesn't care whether Mosab was born in Palestine. It cares whether innocent civilians were murdered or not. That's the reality. It doesn't matter where I come from or where Mosab comes from.
Please, okay. people, so, I have to ask you. Sorry, Mr. Youssef. Nobody's dying in this room by hearing some words. So let's just take a breath.
Great point made by the manager of the debate.
And we'll let them
speak. Half the people in Israel don't know the history of their own country. It doesn't matter. Who cares?
Okay. No. Okay.
No. You have to understand that. You have to understand that the actual reality. It doesn't matter where you come from. You can still understand what is happening. Because it doesn't care. Because it doesn't care. It doesn't care who.
Stop.
Whether somebody dies or not. If I'm born in the United States, it doesn't affect whether somebody dies in Palestine. You don't understand that. You don't understand that.
You're gonna get to ask him whatever you want afterwards.
Okay? We will have Q&As, guys, after.
Facts.
Yeah, he's. The UCLA activist Aiden Doyle, I believe his name is, he shouldn't be engaging with the audience too much right now. And again, many must understand that the goal of a debate is to convince the audience. And this isn't very convincing. When you are debating the other person, aka Mosab or Mossad, your goal is to persuade the audience in this. So right now, don't engage directly with the audience, even though they do seem like they're very pro-Israel.
Facts do matter. Facts matter. Facts don't change if I was born in Palestine or born in the United States. They don't change. Source
of your information? What's the source of your information?
Is Benny Morris okay? Is that a good source?
Give me a legitimate book, and I would like to know an author that has the legitimacy that they
Do you
have studied, and they have the authority to speak on the topic. Name 3 books as source
sure.
of your information.
Yeah.
Okay, that's beautiful because Mosab, he never says books. All he does is my previous experience. I grew up in Palestine and Israel. I grew up with the Arabs and all of that. That's all of his sources. He has no books. Like, never mind, I'm not going to say it. But the other thing is why legitimate sources and authors in terms of who? Like, in terms of him? Like, he gets to choose who's legitimate and who's not? See, it's a stupid framing. Stupid framing.
Sure. The Nation Forum by Rashida Khalidi.
By who?
Rashida Khalidi.
And who is that? I never heard of
I believe his name is Rashid Khalidi.
this woman.
He was actually he was part of the peace process in the 90s.
Okay.
But you don't know about him. That's
Okay.
fine. I still respect your opinion. It doesn't mean that you're wrong just because you don't know a single author, okay? That's fine. I can go on. Benny Morris, The Righteous Victims, 1948. Both of those books. Does that satisfy you, or do you want me to keep on going?
Keep going.
Or do the facts change depending on how many books I've read? I could also talk about I think it's called Creating a Nation by Eddie Balabar, or I could talk about Shlomo Sand, a Tel Aviv author who wrote The Invention of the Jewish People, an Israeli Tel Aviv author. If your point is that what I'm saying is not right because I haven't read enough books, well, you're wrong on both counts.
Okay.
You hear the audience, there's like 2 people clapping, but it is what it is.
First of all, all the books that you read looks like going only in one direction, to delegitimize Israel.
Ah, there we go. Your sources aren't. Yeah, tell me all the books you read on it. Oh, all the books you read on it don't count because it doesn't fit my narrative. Okay, gotcha, Mosab.
Do you know who Benny Morris is?
I don't need to know. I think you're just making up stuff.
Or the making of the Israeli nation.
And I think
Making of the Israeli Nation. Do you know that book, or are you just uneducated?
Look,
what's the?
Look,
Yeah, Benny Morris is definitely on the pro-Israel side.
What's the answer?
Listen. What did I tell you from the beginning of this conversation? I don't need to read books to know my.
Oh, you
land.
don't need to read books, but
I don't
do.
need. I write the books. I write them.
All right.
I live
all right.
the experience. I am the author.
All the credibility you gain.
I am not a second-hand knowledge.
All of the credibility that you gained by living in Palestine was taken away from you when Israel put you on their paycheck.
Ooh, got him. And that's so true. Like I said, did Mosab read any books on the topic? I'm sure he has not. And he's a living experience. Okay, bro. How old are you? You look fairly young. I'd say you're probably 40 or younger. Israel's what, 80 something years old? So how do you know all of the history then without reading books? Oh, you just heard stories. Okay.
Okay. All right. We're gonna.
Okay.
Do
you have evidence that I have a paycheck from Israel?
You worked for Israel for 6 years. It's
Do you have
in your biography.
What's your evidence?
So you weren't paid to work for Israel. You just did it willingly.
Well,
exactly.
Okay.
He got him on that one. Yeah, he definitely worked. You check his Wikipedia page. I know people are going to say stuff about Wikipedia, but yeah, he definitely was. I believe he worked for the Secret Service in Israel, the Mossad. Mosab worked in Mossad.
First of all, if you want to take personal aim, I can take you on a rabbit hole that you will never get out of it.
Sure. Go ahead.
I have been patient and respecting you. You know why? Because you're just an arrogant student with no knowledge, with no life experience, advocating on a very dangerous cause, being a useful idiot in the hands of terrorists.
Okay, few things I want to say. Mosab. I've said this before. I think he's a fake. I think he's trying to impersonate an Arab when he's not. He's probably Israeli. And the reason I say this is because I've spoken to a lot of immigrant Arabs before. Some things you'll notice in their accent is they can't say the letter P. And he just clearly said it. He said experience. An Arab immigrant would probably say something like experience, right? They can't say the P. They say the B. And then also, if you're an immigrant and English is not your first language, you don't know terms like useful idiots. I'm being very honest. You don't know terms like that yet because you don't know the English language in that much depth yet. Like, what does useful idiot mean?
Creating trouble, putting encampment, breaking the law, advocating on behalf of a terrorist organization designated by the American law as a terrorist organization makes you a terrorist. This is my effort to say that I got paid 10 years.
See how clearly he said paid with a P? Any Arab immigrant would say bathed with a B, because they don't have the letter P in their alphabet.
Fighting and chasing after terrorists who blow up, killed Americans, Israelis, Arabs, Muslims, all type of people indiscriminately. Do you think you can sit here and judge me and tell me it's like you did it for money?
When you say you're fighting for Israel, would you say that you're advocating for them?
I told you I only represent myself.
So you're not fighting for Israel.
And you don't have the authority to sit there and judge, tell me I took money or I did not take money. This is not your business.
No, you did take money. That's a fact, and that's fine.
This is not your business.
You took money from Israel, and that's okay. You're a propagandist for Israel. That's just a fact, and it's the reality of the situation. But again, I don't know how many times. I don't know how many times I have to say. I don't know how many times I have to say. I can speak from my own authority. I can speak from the authority of historians. I can speak from the authority. I can speak from the authority of the thousands of Palestinians who live in Palestine, who are actually living there right now. Because at the end of the day, the reality of the situation doesn't care about Aiden Doyle or Mosab Youssef. Whether there's a genocide going on, which there is, it doesn't matter whether I was born in the United States or not. It is simply the reality. And you can check all my sources. You can go read.
Define a genocide. Define a genocide. You speak of what is genocide?
Okay, so look how rich this is. An immigrant, a so-called Arab immigrant who doesn't know English, right? He's telling someone clearly who speaks English as their first language, who's a student at UCLA, he's telling that guy to define genocide. Like, brother, you just learned English like a year ago. Calm down. But again, this is a new argument that's being used to derail the conversation. Oh, he said genocide. He said the G word. Define it. Do you even know what it means? No one ever fought over the definition in all of these years.
Oh, sure. The killing of a whole or a part of a population with intent. Well, are you happy? Do you not think I'd...
This is not what a genocide is.
That is
Mr.
the definition.
With all due I would have said, with all due respect, Mosab, I think you're the one who's still learning English, not me. So let's not go there.
Mr. Doyle, let me ask you something.
I'm sorry that you don't know what the definition of a genocide is, but that is the reality.
Let me ask you something.
With intent based on what? Based on their ethnicity, based on their religion, based on their culture?
Based on their national identity as Palestinians.
Well, Palestine is
but you can talk about intent. I mean, we can start naming names. We can go back to Emily Eliyahu, who wanted to nuke Gaza. We can go back to Theodore Herzl, who wanted to remove all of the Gazans from, all the Palestinians from Palestine. We could go back to the Mowing the Lawn initiative, which is high-frequency, civilian-targeted, asymmetrical warfare that targets civilian infrastructure.
Right.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter where you go.
Do you think?
It doesn't matter where you go. There is intent.
Okay, one moment. Do you think you are smarter than the judge of the ICC who just said that what happens in Gaza is not a genocide?
Do you mean the ICJ?
The ICJ, yeah. Do you think you are smarter than the judge?
Absolutely not. Do you think you're smarter than the judge?
I am not smarter than the judge. And the judge said what's happening in Gaza is not a genocide.
No. Well, actually, that's not true. What they said, well, for one, the determination as to whether a genocide is going on actually hasn't been deliberated, so you're just spreading misinformation. What they said was that the rights... What they said was that the rights of the Palestinian people, especially the rights of the people of Gaza, are at risk of, their rights to not be genocided are at risk of being infringed. And they said that in order for Israel to comply with international law in all three resolutions that they have released, they had to do a number of things. They had to stop targeting civilian population centers. They had to stop starving the population, which includes arresting the people who were stopping the aid from getting into Gaza, which they haven't done. And they also had to not invade Rafah. None of those three things they have done.
Wait, aren't they also, I mean, this is an older interview, but aren't they also the same court that said that Benjamin Netanyahu is a war criminal and should be arrested in whichever country he lands in? Yeah, that was the ICC, ICJ. I'm pretty sure, I mean, they're pretty close, right?
And so when Mosab says that Israel is, that the ICJ has said that Israel is not committing genocide, they made no such determination. The actual determination will come out in probably 2 or 3 years.
You talked about Herzl as one of your people, as Zionist and founding people of Israel, as intentionally removing Arabs from the area. And there's I was reading about this because Mark Lamont Hill at the Berkeley debate brought up the same point. And I looked it up and I read that Theodore Herzl had a famous letter to an Arab notable Yusuf Zia al-Khalidi, and he wrote, quote, "Who would think of sending Palestinian Arabs away? It is their well-being, their individual wealth that we would increase in bringing our own." So how do you jibe that with that he was an intentional, ethnic cleansing or genocide?
So he was a political Zionist. He was fairly liberal for the time. He believed that, he said in other letters that we need to stop giving them jobs. We need to make sure that they don't have a livelihood here, and that we need to make sure that in other Arab countries that that they do have a livelihood in order to convince them to leave. So it was a sort of soft ethnic cleansing, if that makes you feel any better. But then you also mentioned how Theodor Herzl said that we would bring civilization to the Palestinians. Well, this is reminiscent of Christian missionaries who talked about Africans as if they were savages, as if they were uneducated, as if they needed Christianity and Western civilization to be brought to them so that they could tame them. It is an extremely racist ideology, that one that was inherent to Zionism, as they believed that they would be bringing civilization to the Palestinians, that they would be improving their lives. And when in actuality, they removed them, they killed them en masse, and they put them in concentration camps.
Okay.
They're not Palestine. They're actually different countries. But then the assertion that Palestinians left during the Nakba willingly, well, some left willingly because they were being harassed and terrorized in the streets by the Irgun and the Lehi and the Haganah. But over 400 villages were destroyed, hundreds of thousands were forced out. But it wasn't just through force and through brutal terrorism that these groups inflicted upon Palestinians living in Palestine at the time. It was also through legal means, with the absentee law, declaring any house that was empty to be declared the state of Israel's, and that they then moved Jewish tenants in, or through the cancellation of the Ottoman Empire, the permits that were given during the Ottoman Empire, most of which were Palestinian homes. When this happened, the Palestinians were evicted and Jewish tenants moved in. So, I mean, sure, some left willingly, but you have to ask, was it willing, or were they being terrorized and then they decided to leave? Now, then also the claim that the Arab leaders told Palestinians to leave because they'd be able to return later. Well, that's true, but it accounts for a couple thousand, maybe 20,000, as compared to like 700,000.
You know, this guy, Aiden Doyle, he's doing a fantastic job as an activist at UCLA. I'm not sure if he's actually a student there, and he's that young, like he's 21-ish or, around that age. He's doing fantastic going up against, Mossad on a debate on, national TV or what, knowing is getting recorded. It's not easy to be on that hot seat. He's doing really well, in my opinion. Just to remember all these facts on the top of your head, it's like Mehdi Hassan. No one's going to be as good as Mehdi Hassan, but hey, he's trying. He's trying.
Where are you getting that fact from?
Well, what were your numbers?
Well, no, what I'm asking you, where were you getting that fact from?
It's just general knowledge.
What? Well,
yeah, see, in a situation like this, Mehdi Hassan would know right off the top of his head, always on the dome. I don't know how he does it. That's a magic trick. Most people will probably be like that. We're like, oh, it's general knowledge. Probably say, we can look it up, but this is a known fact. We can look it up.
I mean, it's important. It's okay.
If you have a more accurate number, tell me.
I'm not. It's not. This is not my. I'm not debating here. I'm just asking questions.
Oh, sure. So, well, the number of 700,000. Do you agree with that number?
I do agree with that.
The number of a couple thousand, if not tens or 20,000s. I mean,
okay, but
deliberately general because I don't know the exact.
Right? You do agree that it's really, really important when we're saying these things. Well, let me finish. Let me finish. Because we've been listening to you. And it's really, really important when you make these statements, which are affecting people's lives in the world, that we are accurate in our facts. And so I'm not criticizing you right now. I'm just asking you where your source is. I really want to know.
No, if you have a more accurate number, you can tell me.
Thank you. It's okay.
Well, how much is it? How much is it? Because was it 700,000 that were told by the Arab population to leave?
Mr. Youssef might be able to tell, and an academic in the audience or somebody who knows might be able to tell. But
no, because it's important to recognize that just because I don't remember a source from a research that I did 8 or 9 months ago doesn't mean that the reality isn't the case.
Okay.
But if it was 10,000, well, that's important. That means that only 690,000 Palestinians were forced out of their homes. Well, it doesn't make a big difference.
These are hypothetical situations, but we really want to deal with facts when we're dealing with human lives. So
Okay, so do you guys think the person who's moderating the debate is a little bit biased? Yeah, I could see it.
So, let's, Mr. Youssef, do you have a response to what he's been saying? Yeah.
When Yasser Arafat pushed the indoctrination of Palestine on the kids, shutting down the schools, exactly what you are doing here on campus, shutting down the school and building encampment to disturb the student life for the sake of Palestine, a foreign entity that you don't understand, that you've never been there, that you think that it ever existed.
Well, people aren't allowed to go to Gaza, Mosab, because Israel stops them from going to Gaza.
That you think that there is occupation, that you think you know better than the judge, and you say that there is a genocide, that the verdict is going to come sometime in the future, God knows when.
The judge also said Benjamin Netanyahu should be arrested.
So you created this narrative in your head based on YouTube and TikTok videos. Then you claim that you educated yourself from legitimate resources. But I tell you, we as the people, the Arabs who live in that land, nobody ever took my house, even though we are Hamas. And nobody has the right to take your property. You have your name to it, then it's yours. And there are millions of people like this. So all your claims are baseless.
So you can call me TikTok watcher, you can call me Gen Z, you can call me arrogant. What you can't do is respond to the facts.
What facts?
Well, you know,
what facts?
To be fair, we need facts, and that's what I was kind of asking you about. So,
well,
the fact that I was born there and you weren't? The fact that you have a second-hand knowledge?
No, the fact that
the fact that you think saving human life is treason?
No, not the fact of where either of us were born. I don't think the reality would change if I was born in Zimbabwe. The reality would change. The reality would change if I was born in a different country. Oh, that's nonsense. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. No. What the facts that you can't respond to are the deliberate targeting of hospitals that do not have military centers in them, like Karim al-Sharif, like Tel al-Satan, like the evacuation routes that were bombed by Israel. And this is not according to me. This is according to UN.
All right, listen, Mr. Doyle. Let me just take control here for a second. You made your point. I don't know if you had something to say just quickly in response to that, because we gotta move on.
I think the moderator is doing a horrible job of controlling the audience. The audience should not be speaking up constantly for every comment like that. It ruins the quality of the debate.
Okay, targeting hospitals. It's evident. And I told him that I have a first-hand experience, but it looks like no matter what I say, he's going to say, you are paid. You're on a payroll. You're advocating on behalf of the Zionists. And he will continue to be in his denial for eternity. This is a phenomenon of useful idiots that they're advocating on behalf of a dangerous organization. They're bringing chaos, intifada to the United States of America because the government is not taking care of this business. Naturally, the Department of Homeland Security would persecute anyone who's given a material support to a terrorist organization. This is the natural environment. But now it looks like it grow so wild that people like him has the audacity to talk to someone who risked his life on a regular basis to save human lives. This is what we did. I lost my entire family, the wealth of Hamas. Did you know that I managed Hamas money? Do you know how much money is that? You would sell your mother for that kind of money.
Okay, but those kind of personal attacks are okay? Like, that's such a dumb...
Hamas money was under my authority. If I wanted the money, I would have stayed there. You tell me about a paycheck coming from Israel. You're totally mistaken, son. At the beginning, I respected you and I gave you the opportunity because we have to build a dialogue, but it looks like you only have accusations.
Question is for Mr. Doyle. I heard you mention the starving as a component of genocide, and I wanted to know, why is it Israel's burden to provide food to Gazans and not Hamas, the actual government of Gaza? Why did this...
So stupid and ignorant. It's not Israel's job. They stop it. They stop the food from coming in.
3 leaders of Hamas, Ismail Haniyeh, Musa Abu Marzouk, and Khalid Mashal, who are collectively worth $11 billion, not responsible for feeding their own people.
Right, so understanding why Hamas isn't able to feed their own people, you have to understand the agricultural situation of Gaza, which is that they're only agriculturally independent in 2 ways, and that's fruits and vegetables, which means that with the overpopulation of land, 2 million people in a 25-mile strip, and with the relative lack of, certainly right now, agriculture, there's no growing of food whatsoever, being agriculturally and therefore being able to survive by themselves without any exports is actually impossible. Now, the reason for this dates back to 1967 when the occupation of Gaza began, and you can say whether it was an occupation or not. There were settlements in Gaza. They took 20% of the land and they imposed laws on Gaza that specifically prohibited new agriculture from flourishing in Gaza, which means that they did things like banning the planting of more than 1 tree. They made sure that all agricultural exports went through Israeli vendors. And so this, I don't think it's controversial to say, systemic repression of the agriculture of Gaza, and also the subsequent overpopulation of Gaza and the disallowing of really anybody to leave or anybody to get in, has resulted in a situation, mostly with regard to the actual survival of the Gazan people through food, that is completely untenable. And then you talk about why is it the Israel's responsibility to feed the people of Gaza? Well, it's Israel's responsibility because they were the ones who imposed the blockade in 2005. They're the ones who don't allow trade to happen. They're the ones who, maybe not entirely, but at least certainly is partially responsible for the economic devastation that's happened in Gaza, not just since October 7th, but before that as well.
I really want to comment on this subject specifically. I'm a skinny person, and I lost 12% of my body weight inside captivity while my guards was eating in front of my face. And I'm here to tell you that, like I was speaking to you privately before, as a soldier, I know how to observe, let's say it like that, okay? And I was tracking the, the merchandise that came, the brands of the food. It comes from the same place, okay? And that's the merchandise that they bring to support Gaza. Do you know who takes that merchandise? Do you know who has food all the time in their houses? Hamas soldiers. Of course, the civilians will not have it. And
Okay, this is just purely anecdotal. We don't know how true that is. Like, come on, stop it. Where's your evidence? Where's your books?
I moved 7 places, and I saw between 40 to 50 Hamas soldiers. They look good. They didn't lose weight.
But what doesn't change the fact is that even if Hamas didn't hoard the food, if they do that to a large extent universally, even if they didn't do that, Gaza would still be starving.
How that's true. They're working, they're going into Israel, they have their merchandise and the market. They told it themselves that the food got expensive now, not before. It was okay. The prices was okay. Did you know that they get discount in electricity that we don't get, and we support the electricity? Do you know that we pay more? I pay more as a citizen in Israel than the Gaza people.
Well, do you know that we Americans give money to Israel and you guys have a surplus in your budget? Like, we don't. We're in trillions of dollars of debt. And did you know that you get universal health care that I, a United States citizen, I don't?
Did you know that?
Which I think kind of illustrates perfectly.
I didn't have electricity. Just saying. I sit in a dark room.
No,
okay?
and I know. Hamas taking captives was horrible, and people who were responsible for that should be put in prison. But
it's all of them.
But the fact that Gaza has to be given electricity and they cannot sustain that by themselves is indicative of the horrific conditions of Gaza right now and before.
Is that okay? Let me just hold on a second. The thing that seems to be missing, and I'm not criticizing what you're saying. I'm just like noticing that the thing that's missing from your commentary is why, and why is there control of these things in Gaza? Is it just because Israelis don't like Gazans? Or is it because they're worried about their self-preservation and they have to control things to prevent things from coming over the border? Is that?
Well,
Obviously, I'm starting to get annoyed. This UCLA activist, Aiden Doyle, he's doing a great job. But the fact of the matter is, he's debating with 3 people on stage, and then the whole audience is Zionist. It's brave to put yourself in a situation like that. So props to him. But this is so unfair. This debate is so unfair.
As a part of controlling Gaza, they have completely decimated not only the civilian infrastructure, but the agriculture, the economy of Gaza. That's what I'm saying. As a part of controlling it, so destroying the agriculture of Gaza, as they did, as I said, in 1967, has nothing to do with safety. So, if you're asking, is the reason that Israel has this embargo on Gaza because they're worried about their own safety? Well, there's 2 answers to that. Well, one, no, it clearly isn't, because they have put into place repressive policies in Gaza long before Hamas even existed, and make peace, then they wouldn't be instituting embargoes. Now, it goes beyond that the embargo in 2006 was actually in violation of the ceasefire that they signed with Hamas. And so Israel's consistent violation of ceasefire agreements and peace deals is something that's not talked about nearly enough, and indicates that Israel's not just worried about their own safety, they're worried about making sure that they maintain the discriminatory policies that oppress the Palestinians in Israel and in Gaza and in the West Bank.
So-called Palestinians or Arabs are put to test that they are able to coexist with Israel, and after that we can do it step by step towards total cooperation between the Jews and the Arabs. The only threat in the way, and this is my concern, is the Palestinian ideology.
How do you see this conflict ending, and why or why not is that resolution adequate in creating long-term peace and stability in the region?
It directed to any particular speaker?
I can just answer super quickly, and then Mosab can. There needs to be a one-state solution with equal rights and protections for everybody, and an relatively equal distribution of the land for both Jews, Muslims, and Christians. And that means that the government, that means that the government of Hamas, the Palestinian Authority, and the Israeli government, none of them are perfectly suitable to do this, but it would require a lot of cooperation between the 3.
One Arab country where Jews have full rights, or
How would that work when there's a good number of the population in the Palestinian territories that do not want that?
I think they all want that. I think the Jewish population in Israel does not want that.
No, there are a number of people in Israel that don't want a one-state solution. There are a number of people, a lot of people in Palestine don't want a one-state solution.
Wait. How can you say? Wait.
Okay,
how can you?
I've answered the question.
But how can you have a discussion with none of the Hamas representatives sitting here now, and you will never sit here right now? How can you have both sides facts if only one side is volunteer to sit here at all time in any place you'll ask him to? Did you see any one of the Hamas comes to sit here, to debate, to discussion?
Person that we got to come up here to speak from your side of the issue.
Yeah, I can't speak for the people who didn't want to speak. But what I can say is that the view of Hamas as a completely implacable force is not completely incorrect, because they see the Palestinian issue as a very religious issue, and going back on that issue is seen as going back on God. But like we saw with the PLO, over time, they become more of a political movement and less of a nationalist movement, like we'll see with Hamas. Like we've seen with the change from 1987 charter to 1917 charter, they change and they adapt and they grow over time, and it's changing from a staunchly religious movement. Obviously, it still is a very much religious movement, but the movement itself, especially with regard to Hamas, becomes more political and becomes more malleable. The idea is that in time, if we can get Israel and Hamas to both agree to a just solution, then it's ridiculous to say, well, because Hamas is implacable now, then there won't be a solution, because Israel has also been implacable.